Are back on the record in 2023-00046. Appearances are the same. All right. Before we get to cross, I do have one question. Dr. Molaoli, are you currently licensed in the state of Wisconsin?
Your Honor.
Are you currently licensed in the state of Wisconsin, Dr. Molaoli?
No, Judge.
Okay. All right. That was my last question for you. Okay. Attorney Obi.
All right, thank you, Judge. Good morning, Dr. Molaoli. My name is Attorney Obi. Simcox and I are representing the defendants in this matter. I'm going to be asking you some questions that may sound a bit repetitive to what the judge asked, but what I'd like to do is try to walk through the timeline with a little bit more clarity and some documents to support what we're talking about. Can you hear me, Dr. Molaoli?
I hear you. You keep coming and going back. The voice is back and forth.
Okay, if you miss something I say, please just speak up and I'll repeat myself.
Sure.
Okay. So you indicated earlier in the hearing today that you originally applied for your professional counselor license in either 2016 or 2017. Is that right?
Your Honor, I need to ask, is it mandatory to respond to counsel's question?
Yes.
Okay. So in other words, I'm a witness now.
Yes, this is cross-examination.
Okay.
So they get to ask you anything. Now, what's going to happen is when they go to their portion of the case, okay, they're going to call witnesses. They're going to ask their witnesses questions. And when they're done asking their witness, it's your turn to then ask that witness questions, okay? So at this point, she now gets to ask you questions. It's called cross-examination. Go ahead, Attorney Obi.
Okay, so the question I had asked was, you indicated earlier in your testimony today that you originally applied for your professional counselor license in Wisconsin in 2016 or 2017. Is that correct?
Somewhere around that time, yes.
And is one of the first things you applied for after that was, and I think we talked about this earlier, was what's called a training license, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if I give you the date of January 2017, at which you received your professional counselor training license, does that sound like a reasonable date to you? You may not remember exactly, but do you have any reason to believe that's not accurate?
I don't have records before me. It's what you're looking at. I'm not going to say yes or no. I don't have that exact record before me.
Sure. Well, let's pull up an exhibit that might help jog your memory. So I'm going to ask to refer to what's marked as ERD 110.
Is that yours or mine?
It's respondents exhibits. They start at 101, I believe.
Did one or what?
It's ERD 110.
Attorney
Should be on your screen.
We're seeing the wrong screen of yours. You want to take that down?
What are we talking about? You're showing a different thing and we're talking about paperwork. If you can point me to the paperwork.
If you could just give us a moment, we're going to pull up the correct exhibit and then you can match that to what you have in your paperwork there. We were just looking at the wrong screen. That's why I was talking. We scroll up so that we can Yes, okay. And maybe, okay. Can we scroll up just a little, all the way to the top so that he can see the, okay. So at the top of this document, Dr. Molaoli, it says Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, Health and Business Renewal Application. Now, there are two different exhibits with that title. However, this one is going to be dated 4/18 of 2023.
What number is this? Is that page R4, page 001? Okay.
It's bait stamp ERD 110.
It makes sense, 110. Makes sense.
Yes, 110, correct. Do you have it?
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the paper.
Okay, great. So as
And what is this? So I have a title for this?
That's a good one.
Well, let's see. It says DSPS application status.
Application status query. This
Okay.
comes from the online portal for the application. And this is the application for the training license. And we'll be talking about making a distinction as we go on here between training license and temporary license. And right now we're talking about the training license.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Molaoli, about a third down the page there, do you see the date of April 18, 2023?
What paragraph?
Well, it's if you look at the section that's above the boxes.
If you're going to the boxes next to the circle, yes, we see that April 18, 2023. What's the question?
Okay. Well, the question was first, do you see it? And you do. Okay.
I'm looking at it. I have a document here. I'm looking at the paperwork.
All right, Dr. Molaoli. And underneath that, we have an application number. Underneath that, we have your name. And then we have the title of this application license, which is Professional Counselor Training License. And it gives a location of Janesville, Wisconsin. Is this document or this information that we're looking at here familiar to you?
That's information from the respondent's online portal. I'm familiar with the information. Yes.
Okay. So this is from the online portal. Okay, great. So I want to now go down into the boxed area along the left, the far most left column until we get to that box that says application complete. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you go follow that along to the right, to the far right column, there are two different applications referenced here. The one below the dotted line is where I'd like to start. Do you see where it says November 1, 2016 complete?
Dr. Molaoli, it might be easier to look at the computer screen because they've highlighted it for you. And the question was, do you see the date of November 1, 2016 and the word complete?
I'm in receipt of the date. That's respondent's online records. Yes.
Okay. We're just going through some dates to jog your memory here. You told me, you know, and understandably don't remember all of the dates this far back. So now I'd like to scroll down to the second page, which is labeled ERD 111. And if we could look at the box on the bottom, this is asking for some information about conviction charges. And the only reason I'm pointing this out is if we look to the right at the bottom, we see some dates in November of 2016 where they're asking for some additional information. Do you see that?
I'm looking at it.
Okay. So this is just giving a timeline. Just once again, this is your application for the training license. And as of November 2016, they were still collecting some information. So I'd like to represent to you that in January of 2017, all of that information had been received and you were granted your professional counselor training license. Would you agree with that? January of 2017?
What's your question?
Do you agree that you received your training license in January of 2017 because you had turned in everything that had been asked of you at that time?
That's according to the respondent's notes.
Well, you either agree or you disagree. That's the question. It's not where it comes from, is do you agree or disagree?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Molaoli. And that training license was good for 4 years, correct?
A training license, it was not good for 4 years. That's not accurate.
How many years do you believe your training license was originally good for?
I cannot speculate. You are representing the respondent. You should be in a better position to know. Do we have a license which is valid for 4 years? I don't think so.
Well, I am representing to you that it's good for 4 years, and I'm asking whether you agree with that.
I do not agree.
Okay, can you tell me how many years it was good for?
I can't speculate, but there is no license which is granted for 4 years.
Okay. Well, okay. If I represent to you that that training license that you received in January of 2017 expired in January of 2021, does that sound familiar?
2021, the in training or the permanent one?
We're talking about the training license.
I don't see the authenticity. We are not looking at the actual license itself. If you have documentation of the license, that would be.
I'm just
okay. I'm going to stop right here. Dr. Molaoli, you either, when you're asked a question, you either, if it's a yes/no question, you either say yes or you say no. The question is your training license was granted in 2017. You've already said yes. And then you don't agree that your training license was good for 4 years. Okay? So now her question is that it was due to be renewed in January of 2021. Do you agree with that?
I don't.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to move on to the temporary license. You also requested a temporary license around April of 2020. Is that correct?
2020. Where are you making me look at? If you can show me where we are looking at.
I'm not showing you a document right now. I'm just asking you if that sounds correct to you. You applied for a temporary license in April of 2020, thereabouts?
I don't recall.
Okay. Let's pull up.
Well, before we pull up, are you asking that this Wisconsin application status query be marked as an exhibit ERD 110 through 112?
Yes, I am, Judge. And we can
Are you offering it into evidence?
Yes.
I like to do these one at a time.
All right.
it gets a little less confusing at the end of the day. Are you requesting that it be admitted into evidence?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Any objection, Attorney, Dr. Molaoli?
Objection.
Okay, it's been admitted, hearing no objection. Okay. Attorney Obi, my apologies. Please continue.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that. Now I'm referring to the document which is marked ERD 101. And this, could we scroll up just a tad more so we can see the title? Thank you. At the top, we once again see Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, Health and Business Renewal Application, and under that, application status query. But if we look down a couple of paragraphs above the boxes, we now see there's a query date of April 17, 2023, an application number, your name, Dr. Molaoli, professional license is licensed professional counselor, location Janesville, Wisconsin. And here the application status says temporary permit issued. Does this accurately reflect your application so far for a temporary license?
According to the notes, yeah.
Okay. Now, if I represent to you that your temporary license was granted in January of 2021, would you agree with that?
No.
Was that a no?
Yes.
Okay, what date do you believe your temporary license was originally granted?
I don't have the physical licenses. I cannot speculate.
But you disagree that it was granted in January of 2021?
Yes.
I'd like to scroll down to ERD, to page 2, which is marked ERD 102. And the second row from the bottom states temporary license granted. And if we move over to the far right column, once again, there are two separate dates. The one at the bottom is the original. So under the dotted line, we have a temporary license number under which it says valid January 20, 2021. Do you see that, Dr. Molaoli?
I see that.
Okay. And do you see underneath that, it says expires October 20 of 2021?
Yes.
Okay. So based on those dates, would you agree with me that your temporary license was granted in January of 2021 and expired 9 months later in October of 2021?
Those are 9 months. Yes. Contract to the 4 years that you were indicating. Yes.
Well, no, the 4 years was with respect to the training license. We were on a different exhibit and talking about a different license. We are now talking about your temporary license that was good for 9 months.
But these are licenses. The questions that you're asking, these are licenses which are broken in between. There was no license which goes back to back from 1 to 4 years. If it's 9 months, you can see it's in between segments. If it's 7 months, 9 months, it stipulates that. I don't want you to believe that the licensure was going from 1 to 4 years concurrently. No.
I'm going to ask a question just for my own clarification here. Is there a difference between a training license and a temporary license?
You're asking me, Your Honor?
No, I'm asking the attorney to clarify.
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking Dr.
No.
Yes, there is a difference. You're
Okay.
right.
All right. So we're talking two different types of licenses. The training license was granted in January of 2017, and that expired in January of 2021.
Correct, Your Honor.
And the temporary license is different than the training license. The temporary license was applied for in April of 2020. It was granted on January 30th, or no, January 20th. Is it 20 or 20th of 2021? And that license, which is different than the training one, was good for 9 months, and that expired on October the 20th of 2021. Is that correct, Attorney Obi, as to what you've tried to explain going through your
Yes,
exhibits and your cross exam thus far?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Dr. Molaoli, did you understand what I just asked of the attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you agree with what I stated and that was correct?
Makes perfect sense. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Attorney Obi.
All right, so Dr. Malawi, under the expires October 2021, there's a note there. It says, please note, temporary will expire 9 months from today's date and may be renewed only one additional time. And then we see some initials there, TMB. Do you have reason to know whose initials those are?
I don't. I'm non-respondent staff.
No, I'm just asking if you know. Do you believe that maybe the witness you asked for, Tammy Buckingham?
Then if that's Tammy, now you're informing me. I wasn't aware. That's Tammy Buckingham. Now I'm getting to know. Thanks for letting me know.
Right, fair enough. At any rate, you do see the note there about the 9-month expiration and the one-time renewal, correct?
It's very hard. Nobody can miss this. It's obvious. These notes are very definitive. Anybody, I can see this. Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Malawi, I just want to clarify, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence here. This is how things get entered into the record. It may be obvious to all of us, but we have to still ask the question and record the answer.
All righty.
Please be patient with me on that. All right. So then, after your temporary license expired, you did request and were granted a renewal of that temporary license for additional 9 months, correct?
January 2021 through when? October 2021. Yes.
Okay. I will direct your attention in that same box where we were looking up now to the top of the box. There's a date there that says August 24, 21, renewed, issued for 9 months and will expire 7/20/22. Do you see that?
That's 24.
I didn't hear your question.
It's all this. It would be very helpful if you're going in that very particular chronological order. It would be very helpful. You're going back and forth. It's very difficult to understand what you're getting at. I understand the resolve of asking these questions, but you're going back and forth. If you can run this in that order, it would be very helpful.
Well, I'm not going to change the order of my questions because I believe that it makes it most clear if we separate the training license from the temporary license, because those
Okay, what are we discussing now? Are we discussing temporary or permanent license?
We're looking at exhibit ERD 101-102, which is the application for temporary, that includes the application for temporary license.
Okay.
And I was directing your attention to the date 8/24/21, where it states renewed, issued for 9 months, and will expire on July 20 of 2022. So would you agree, Dr. Malawi, that your temporary license was renewed for an additional 9 months and then expired in July of 2022?
Yes.
Thank you. And did you understand that your temporary license could be renewed only one time and could not be renewed a second time?
I didn't understand that.
Okay. All right, well, at that point, where your temporary license expired, then was your only option to go back and renew your expired training license?
What's the question again?
At the point where your temporary license had expired for the second and final time in July, on July 20 of 2022, at that point, you had not yet passed any of your required examinations, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in order to continue operating under a license, at that point was your only option to go back and renew your training license?
Is that a question or it's a statement?
It's a
Question.
Repeat your question.
After your temporary license had expired for the second time in July, on July 20 of 2022, and you had not passed any of your examinations, was your only option to continue licensure in Wisconsin to then go back and renew your training license?
I believe so. Allow me to elaborate on that. I believe, based on the paperwork, the documentation that we have forwarded in, I believe it warranted supervision. I want you to be recognizant of that.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And before I move on to the next exhibit, yes, Judge, I would like to enter this into evidence.
Any objection for respondents exhibit number 2? It is Bates stamped ERD 101 to 102. This is the Wisconsin application status query regarding the license of professional counselor of the temporary license, excuse me. Any objection? Dr. Molaoli?
No.
Hearing no objection, it has been marked, offered, and admitted into evidence.
All right, I'd like to now move on to the exhibit marked ERD 107 through 109.
So D, B, or E?
ERD, they all begin with ERD.
Which one is that number? What again?
107-109. It's 3 pages.
Okay.
Let me know when you're there.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. Attorney Simcox, do you want to pull that up for the judge? 107. Not seeing anything on the screen. And we're looking at your email now.
Okay, this is the complainant's application for renewal of the training license?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're still not seeing anything on the screen, but if we all have access to it, I can proceed. Judge, do you have your own copy?
Yes, I do. And just give me one moment and I will be more than happy to, hold on one second, please.
Yeah, I apologize. It's not letting me share that one.
That's all right. I'm getting ready to do that for everyone so we can all see it.
Oh,
Okay.
It's a computer setting.
All right.
There we go.
Can everyone see this? Dr. Molaoli, can you see this?
Yes, I do. Raj.
Okay, this is ERD 107, and let's see, it's 107, 108, and was that it? What were the numbers again?
107, 108, and 109.
Okay, 107, 108, and 109.
If we just want to scroll back up to the top.
Yep. Working on it. Just got to get my mouse over to the other monitor.
Oh, I didn't realize-
Sorry about that.
I didn't realize you were controlling the documents now.
Well, I am because nobody could pull it up. So
Okay,
we
okay.
needed to move on. So
I now
have-
understand what's happening. Okay.
I'm more than happy to do that if we have technical difficulty. Okay,
Thank
there you go.
All right, so we see at the top, again, Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, and then going down the underlined title of this, yes, the highlighted portion there, the underlined title of this document is application to renew current marriage and family therapist or professional counselor or training license. So we were talking, Dr. Molaoli, that after your temporary license had expired for the final time in July of 2022, you needed some license to operate under, and so you did apply to renew your expired training license. If you just want to confirm that this is your application, and I will certainly give you a chance to look, you can scroll through it so that you can see the entire document here. So on the first page, it has your name and address and email address and the license number. And then if we scroll to page 2, which is marked ERD 108, in the middle of the page there, Dr. Molaoli, is that your signature and date next to it?
My staff filled out the application and that's my signature. What's the question?
That
You just answered it.
Thank
So that is your application and that is your signature.
And am I reading that date correct? Because it's a little hard to read. Is that June 28th of 2022?
June 28th. Is that a question to me? That
Yes.
date? Are you asking if that's my handwriting in there?
No, she's asking you because the date is hard to read with the lines going up and down. Is the date June 28th, 2022?
Your Honor, I can't speculate. It says for receiving use only. That's from the respondent. I can't speak about something that I never wrote.
Okay, well, whose signature is this?
That signature is mine, but that date
Okay,
there,
and then who put the date there?
the date there, that should be from the respondent. That's not anything from my staff, Ayana, no me.
Okay, so you did not write this date in here? That is not your handwriting?
Obviously, it says for receiving use only. It should be from the respondent.
I don't understand where you're seeing for receiving use only. I'm asking you, look at your screen on page 108. We have a signature here. Is this your signature?
Oh, the one by the signature. Yes, that's mine. I thought you were talking about the one. In
No,
the
I'm talking about the page that's on your screen right now. ERD
No, I-
108. That is your
That's my-
signature.
That's my
Did you
signature.
write
Yes,
this, the date that's right beside your signature?
That's my
Does
signature.
that read June 28th, 2022?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and if we can now scroll to page 3, which is marked ERD 109. This is the last page of the application, and it is titled Professional Counselor Supervisor Approval Form. That's underlined near the top. You see that, Dr. Molaoli?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Again, please be patient. We need to ask questions and answers and get the information into the record.
Mhm.
So this is a blank form. Did you submit a blank form with your application?
That form was faxed to DSPS, which took them over 3 months or 4 months to approve. Yes.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'd now like to offer this exhibit into the record.
Any objection?
Your Honor, there is an objection here. What's the relevance of entering a blank form as evidence? What are we trying to ascertain here?
This is the entire application that was submitted. So we start with 107, right? That's your application with your name, your phone number, email, that sort of thing, the license number. And then the second page was 108, where you signed it and put the date there. And then the third page is part of that application process, which was also, you just testified that you submitted and you faxed this over as well. That's it. It's just the application to renew your training license. This is what you just testified to submitting to get your training license renewed. So I'm asking and they've asked to admit this into evidence. We've just talked about it. Do you have an objection to this?
It's fine.
Okay, hearing no objection, it is admitted.
I'd now like to return to the exhibit previously entered into evidence and marked as ERD 110 through 112.
There we go.
And we are back at the application status query for the training license. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Are you with us, Dr. Molaoli?
I am.
Okay, so we just confirmed that your signature on that application was dated June 28 of 2022. And if we now look at the first row under requirements met, where it says application complete, and then go over to the far right column at the top, we're now talking about renewal. So there's a separate set of dates from the one being below the dotted line. We're looking above the dotted line where it says June 30 of 2022. Your renewal application has been reviewed. This item will remain unmet until all other requirements are met. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just following through the timeline now. We're in June of 2022, and it's telling us that you haven't met all of the requirements. Based on your recollection, approximately how long did it take for you to satisfy all of the requirements and get this training license renewed a second time, or renewed a first time?
I can't substantiate. I don't know what was the unmet requirement.
Okay,
Either.
I'm just asking if you remember. Let's scroll to page 3, which is marked ERD 112. And under the box there titled Board Approval, if we go to the top of the box on the far right column, we have a date of December 27, 2022, and it says renewal per board liaison for 6 months. You see that, Dr. Molaoli?
Looking at it, yes.
Okay, would you agree with me that your training license was renewed for an additional 6 months in December of 2022?
Not exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
No,
You don't agree?
I don't.
Why not?
You're explaining the timeline. Are you explaining the timeline from 7/20 of 22? Now you're talking when it was approved by 7/12/2012. Is the timeline matching that, right?
Dr.
So,
Molaoli, my question to you is, would you agree that in December of 2022, your training license was renewed for an additional 6 months?
December, what date?
We're looking at a date highlighted on the screen of December 27, 2022.
December 27. 2022. 27. 2022. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 27. 2022, yes.
Okay. And if that was renewed for an additional 6 months, would you agree then that that training license expired 6 months later in June 2023?
It makes sense. 6 months, yes.
Thank you. Okay. And did you submit any further applications after this training license expired in June of 2023?
June of 21.
June of 2023.
What date?
Well, if it was renewed on December 27 and it's good for 6 months, that takes us to June 27 of 2023. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and please bear with me. Don't be frustrated when I ask you the date. Since you're effectifying timeliness here, I need to make sure that I understand what you're trying to ask. For whatever reason that you're trying to ascertain, you want to ask you for specific dates. Bear with me. There is nothing unreasonable when I ask you to substantiate the actual date. June 27.
June 27 of 2023 or thereabouts?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Malone. All right. And I'm just keeping track of the time here. It looks
Well,
like
what I've got, I need a clarification. So after that, the training license, okay? That's what we're talking about right now, the training license. You did renew that. It expired on June 27 of 23. The question had been, did you make any further applications to the Department of Safety and Professional Services to renew any licenses?
And my response is I responded this before. I said there was no need because there is a pending litigation with the
Well,
respondent.
it's either you did or you didn't, not why, just did you?
I didn't.
Okay,
And the
there we go.
reasons were given already. I didn't.
Okay, that's what I needed clarification on. Okay, Attorney Obi.
okay, and I'm just keeping track of the time here. We have about a half hour before you need to take your break.
Yes.
So I do think I can get through the next section in that amount of time. God
Okay.
willing. Okay, so I want to now talk about the examinations that you took. And I understand that the judge asked you some questions about them, but I'd like to walk through them in a little bit more detail. Let me just back up. Did I enter ERD 110 through 112 into evidence?
Yes, we did.
It was already in evidence.
Yeah, that was your first exhibit.
Okay.
So we have 110 through 112, 101, 102, and 107 through 109, all of them admitted without objection.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you did talk earlier in your testimony today that you understood there were one of three required examinations that you're required to pass in order to receive a professional counselor license in Wisconsin. Is that correct?
Yes, and I also emphasize the point that the problems surrounding the examinations. Let's be mindful of that.
I believe the judge has already ruled on that issue, and I don't want to take a sidetrack down that issue again. I'm just asking for clarification that you agree that there were one of three examinations you could take. And she did mention what they were, but I'm going to list them again for your benefit. The National Counselor Examination for Licensure and Certification, otherwise known as the NCE. Is that one familiar to you, Dr. Molaoli?
Yes, that's the respondent's exam.
And then the next possible examination that you could have taken was the National Clinical Mental Health Counselor Examination, also known as the NCMHCE. Is that one familiar to you?
Yes.
And then the third one was the National Clinical Mental Health Counselor Examination. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm repeating the same one. The Certified Rehabilitation Counselor Examination, That was number 3. Are you familiar with that one? I'm sorry, was that a yes?
I said yes.
Okay, I didn't hear you.
I don't know whether the microphone is clear. I keep saying yes. You make me repeat twice.
Well, if I don't hear you, I am going to ask again because I need to make sure we got the answer in the record. Okay. So now, of those 3 exams, how many of those exams, or which of those exams did you take?
The 3 exams.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Which of the 3
the-
exams did you take?
The 3 exams.
You took all 3 of those?
Let me clarify, if I could, Judge. You took 3 exams in total, correct, Dr. Molaoli? But, Dr. Molaoli?
Give me a minute.
Okay.
According to 56, 57, and 58.
The question is to you is which specific, she just went over the 3 types of tests, the 3 different tests you could take. She's asking, of those 3 exams, which ones did you take?
056.
No. Just answer the question. What did you take? The NCE? Did you take the NCMSHCE, or did you take the Certified Rehabilitation Test? Which of those tests did you take? The name of it.
NCE,
Okay.
NCMHCE,
Okay.
and NCMHCE.
Okay, so you took that second type of exam twice, correct, Dr. Molaoli?
Yes.
Okay, but you did not take the CRC, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just.
And there are reasons why I didn't continue to take that. I explained the reason why, because there were maladjusted problems and disparaging problems. I need to explain that.
Dr. Molaoli, no one is no one is disparaging you for not this was your choice. You had the choice, correct? To take any of those 3 exams. You could have just taken one of those exams if you wanted. Isn't that correct? You weren't required to take all 3.
I responded to.
Well, let's just move to the exhibit. I'd like to pull up ERD, marked ERD 103 through 106.
Okay.
What number is
Can
that?
everyone see this? It's ERD 103.
Let me know when you have it, Dr. Molaoli, or if you
Yeah.
can see. So at the top, we have Wisconsin DSPS, Integrated Credentialing and Enforcement. That's the title on the top. And then this is kind of showing us near the top several tabs. And the tab we're looking at, it might be a little hard to see, but it's the history tab. You see where the tabs are? Towards the top of the page. Under the word application and beginning with the word checklist. And then if you go over to the second to the last tab, it says history. We're on the history page. Do you see that? Are you with me, Dr. Molaoli?
I do.
Okay. And then there we have the Judge, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, and then we have the applicant name. That's your name there, Dr. Molaoli. And over to the right, we have the application ID. And then if we go down to the second, to the bottom row in that box, it says temporary permit issued. and then there's your temporary license again. Now, if we go down to the bottom box, it's titled History, because that's the tab we're on. Okay, and 3 of those rows in that box are asterisk. And the first asterisk has a date of October 14, 2020. It says exam. It says NCE scores fail. Is that the first exam you took, Dr. Molaoli, the NCE, and did you take it on October 14, 2020?
I believe I did.
And then if we go down to the next row that has an asterisk in front of it, that's dated January 14 of 2022. It says exam, and then it says NCM HCE scores. Did you take the NCM HCE on January 14, 2022?
I believe I did.
Okay, and then the third. Oh, I'm
Amendment
sorry.
to that, I believe I did, and an amendment to that, an amendment which is an additional discussion that I did take all the 3 exams. But here is the question. The judge explained that since we don't have NBCC here, why are we talking about this particular exam, which the judge encumbered me to speak about the exam, which the respondent does not have control? Why are we discussing this? I
Because
need
it's
to make
what, because you in your testimony
Yeah.
explained what the criteria was in order to get a license. One of the criteria was that you had to take an exam. They gave you several exams to choose from, and you did not pass the exam. So without a passing score, you are unable to get a license in the state of Wisconsin. So
Your
that's
Honor,
why she's talking about, did you take an exam and did you pass or fail the exam? That's it.
and Your Honor, I did explain that these exams did have some maladjusted problems that we had. We had disparaging problems, and then we had malfunctioning equipment, which you did not want to entertain. No, listen to.
Objection, relevance.
It's not irrelevant. It's irrelevant to this point because we are talking about which the judge prevented me to talk about, that they are subcontractors.
Well, there's no evidence of that, and you said you had no evidence that there is a subcontractor. So that's why we're not doing that. If you had some physical evidence, documentation, testimony that they were indeed a subcontractor and they were under the custody and control of the respondent, we would go there. But you don't, so I cannot go there. Okay? So that's why she's asking you, did you take the exam? You did take the exam. We've already admitted it under your evidence, and that was ERD 56 through 59, your NBC exam scores. So you asked to have those admitted. Those have already been admitted. So she's just going through it again for the timeline purposes, that you took the exam on January 14 of 2022, and this time you took the NCM HCE, and then again on September the 17th of 2022, you took the NCM HCE exam again. That's where we're at. And her question to you is, would you agree that those were the dates that you took those exams?
Yes.
Okay. Attorney Obi.
Thank you. All right, if we could scroll to the next page, which is marked ERD 104. Now we are looking at some details regarding that first test taken. We can see the examination date states October 14, 2020. And the examination result says fail. Title of this exam is National Counselor Examination for Licensure and Certification, otherwise known as the NCE. And then down below, we have some detailed scores. 2 sections, and over to the right, we have a column for your score, a column for the maximum score, and the column for the score required to pass. Do you see those, Dr. Molaoli?
Yes.
So under the first section, labeled CACREP areas. If we scroll over, it's showing your score is 62. And then if we scroll over to the far right-hand column, it says score required to pass 95. You see that?
Yes.
And then in the section down below, titled Counselor Work Behavior Areas, if we scroll over, we see your score is 62 and the score required to pass is 95.
Yeah.
See that?
Yes.
Okay. So because your score is lower than the score required to pass, that's why your examination result says fail. Would you agree with that?
Object, Your Honor, on that. She's speculating because she's not in a position, she does not work for NBCC, nor do we have a questionnaire for this examination. These are just test scores which have been printed there on the documentation.
And that's what she's asking. It says on this piece of paper that your score was 62 and you needed 95 to pass. Would you agree that that's what's on this piece of paper?
Don't agree with what's on paper.
You don't see the number 62 and you don't see the number 95?
I don't agree what's on paper. Don't.
The question is whether you agreed with it or not. The question is, do you see that it says your score is 62? You've already said yes. Do you agree that you see the number 95 under the heading score required to pass? Do you see those numbers?
But I'm getting bombarded here.
Well, the question is you either see it or you don't. It doesn't matter what your answer is. You can answer either way. It's perfectly acceptable. If you're not able to see it, then you say, I cannot see that. If you
I'm looking at the paperwork and I'm looking at them. I see them. Do I agree
okay,
with them?
that's her question.
No,
Is
I
would
don't.
you agree that your score was 62 and according to NBCC, your score is 62 and the score required to pass is 95? So the question is, do you agree that according to NBCC, that's what they put down for you? As to whether it's accurate or not, that's not the question. The question is, did they put that down on that piece of paper for you? Is that what NBCC is reporting?
I'm agreeing that that's what the respondent placed on. Is that correct? No, I'm agreeing that that's what the respondent placed on the paperwork.
Okay, that's what the NBCC put on their paperwork.
That's what they put on the paperwork.
Okay. All right. Next question, Attorney Obi.
My follow-up question then, Dr. Molaoli, is do you have any evidence of other scores than what we're looking at here?
I don't have evidence of other scores.
Okay. I'd like to move to the next page, which is marked ERD 105. This examination date states January 14 of 2022. Underneath that, the result is fail. The title of the exam is National Clinical Mental Health Counselor Examination, otherwise known as the NCMHCE. And underneath that, we have two sections that were scored: information gathering on the left of the vertical line and decision making on the right of the vertical line. If we looked under the information gathering section and we follow the column labeled your score, we go down to a total raw score of 46. And then to the right of that, the passing score is 95. You see that, Dr. Molaoli?
Yes.
And then if we go to the right of that vertical line under the decision-making section, and we look for your score, for some reason they didn't give you a score. I do see that if you follow the rows across, you got a score for the bottom two categories, counseling and psychotherapy, administration, consultation, and supervision, but you didn't get a score for assessment and diagnosis. Do you know the reason for that?
I don't.
Okay. At any rate, so there's no,
Ask me a question. When you ask me that kind of question, what are you trying to lead at? You're aware that I don't work for NBC. Why would you ask me a question like that? That's why they didn't award that point. This is part of their information gathering, which is prejudicial. And I've explained this, and you're asking me a question, why they didn't give it a marker of that. How would I know?
well, I'm
That's
asking
very
if you do know.
antagonistic. That's
She's
very antagonistic.
asking if you know. You either know or you don't.
Rona, that's very antagonistic. Well, I
No,
don't.
no, 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 stop. It's not antagonistic
It
because
is your
some people during the middle of an exam have gotten ill. So I didn't complete that portion of the exam because I was in the bathroom. And when I came back, I had to move on. I didn't complete that portion of the exam because when I went to use the computer was not operative for that portion of the exam. There are a variety of reasons why you might not have a score.
Your
She's
Honor,
simply giving you an opportunity. If you know, then let us know. If
Your
you
Honor,
don't know, that's perfectly fine too. There's
Your
no
Honor,
trick questions.
try to explain this, but some of this information, you were not very receptive to the information. Allow me to say this. I explained to you the malfunctioning of their equipment. I explained to you the disparaging treatment that I was given, and now there it is. It's
Well, then
right there.
that's your answer. Yes, the reason you did not complete your score, according to you, is this your correct testimony that you do not have a score for the assessment and diagnosis because you believe the equipment was malfunctioning at that time?
You didn't allow me to finish, Your Honor, but I'll just rest the case. I don't have anything to say.
Well, you have to answer the question, sir. You either know or you don't know. And either answer is acceptable.
I'm not allowed to elaborate and explain.
Of course you can. You can say, yes, I know what happened because of this. Now's your chance to tell me what happened.
When I'm trying to elaborate, you interject me. It sounds like you don't want me to finish the point. I feel like you're not listening to what I'm trying to explain as well. Whatever state is trying to represent, you are listening to it. I'm not given enough time to adequately explain what I'm trying to explain. I get the point of the yes and the no. I'm not given the opportunity to explain and elaborate. That's what I'm trying to explain here.
This is cross-examination, okay?
Yeah.
The way it works is they can ask you any question that is relevant to this case, okay? So when normally when people ask questions during cross-examination, it's called leading the witness. And usually those questions are framed as either yes or no answers. All right? So at this point, she can, because you're going to get a chance to do rebuttal. And that's where you can explain and elaborate on any of the questions that you were asked that you could only respond to as either yes or no. We're not there yet. So her question is, do you know why you do not have a score? You either know or you don't. Then you take a little note to yourself to explain why there's no score when we come back to your rebuttal, okay? You will get all the time to explain. Does that help clarify anything, sir?
Hopefully, Judge.
Okay. So, do you know why there is not a score?
That's my question, Judge, or it's
Yes,
for
it's either yes or no. Yes, you know, or no, you don't.
the respondent's malfunctioning equipment, which was not working on time, and that explains the points which were never labeled except for what is being put as fail. This is deliberate.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Yes.
Attorney Obi.
Okay, so just wrapping this one up under decision making, so you have no score for that section and a passing score of 112 was required. So that, would you agree that these scores we're looking at, as they're represented by MBCC, is the reason why the examination result is fail? I didn't hear your answer, Dr. Molaoli.
Yes.
Okay. And then moving to the final page, marked ERD 106. Here we have an examination date of September 17, 2022. This exam is entitled also the National Clinical Mental Health Counselor Examination, also known as the NCM HCE. And we have these same sections as we looked at on the prior exam scores. And down at the bottom, we see on the left-hand side of the vertical line under information gathering, your score of 75 and a passing score of 101. And then on the right of the vertical line, we see your score of 55 and a passing score of 118. Would you agree that these scores are the reason why you have an examination result of fail for this exam?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to now offer this exhibit into evidence.
Any objection, Dr. Molaoli?
uh,
All right, hearing no objection, it has been marked, offered, and admitted into evidence.
Okay, I'm now going to switch gears and I'm just wondering, we have 10 minutes left. And just, I guess, based on the amount of time it took us to get through 3 exams that are well documented, I'm just not sure if we should start with the next section or not.
Why don't we come back at 1:15? That'll give you guys an opportunity to, I don't know if you want me to continue being the one to put up exhibits. I have no problem with that as long as you tell me what we're looking at. Or you can take that time to try and figure it out. That's up to you. And we will be back at 1:15.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.